everyone to 284 News. My name is Javon Wilson.
I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant.
And we are so thrilled and happy to be coming to you live out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands. The content continues via our website, 284media.com.
In today's news, 9 Haitians to be deported after illegally entering the BVI.
More VI health staff trained in antigen testing for COVID-19.
A local becomes the first person to receive $10,000 ticket for breaching quarantine order.
The Virgin Islands is going to host yet another COVID-19 vaccine drive-through from August 28th to the 31st.
New policy for work permit exemptions. They no longer have to wait 15 years to qualify, and concerns raised by governor and UK officials. The reason 3 bills remain not asserted to. These and more stories when 284 News returns.
You value traditions. You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Welcome everybody. It's Friday, August 27th, 2021. We're coming to you live and direct from the beautiful British Virgin Islands. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Ron Grant.
And I'm Kamal Haynes. We start with news where provisions are being made to have 9 Haitians who recently entered the British Virgin Islands illegally deported from the territory. But this announcement was made by the Chief Immigration Officer Ian Penn in a government commission media release released Thursday, August 26th. Well, according to Penn, on Wednesday, August 25th, a motor vessel was spotted circling the Beef Island area, which then ran aground. Well, a number of persons were then seen walking along the Beef Island Road, which led concerned civilians to notify the Immigration Department. Well, Penn said the department's officials, in conjunction with the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force and Her Majesty's Customs, apprehended, detained, and identified a total of 9 individuals as Haitian nationals. Well, he said, and I quote, "I would like to say thank you to everyone who was involved in the apprehension and detention of these individuals. Well, our respective departments will continue to work together and remain vigilant while we protect the borders of the Virgin Islands," end quote. Well, Penn further said the BVI Health Services Authority was also immediately notified for due process, and health screening of the Haitians were conducted according to the protocols. Well, Ron, this is some very concerning news. It's good news in terms of the 9 individuals being held and captured.
Yes.
But some very concerning news that it continues to show the porous nature of the BVI borders.
Absolutely. Kamal, this is a situation that we have been struggling for probably before my time, and I think at the end of the day it is going to take a collaborative effort like we see that of concerned citizens really coming forward and assisting the officials in this capture.
And I think it also piggyback to the legislation the minister would have been passing in the House of Assembly yesterday, where they're looking to increase the fine to $100,000 for persons entering the BVI illegally,
That is
and up
correct.
to 10 years in prison.
Wonderful. Continuing on the local scene, the government of the Virgin Islands continues to train additional staff for the offering of antigen testing as it seeks to reopen the territory's ports of entries safely and efficiently to international traffic. Now, training has commenced on Virgin Gorda for 4 new temporary employees for the administration and recording of rapid antigen testing for COVID-19. Minister for Health and Social Development, the Honorable Carvin Malone, in a call to action on social media on August 24th, invited persons to apply for the program, as the BVI Health Services Authority had received some 45,000 rapid antigen tests, and plans are in the making for the deployment of staff throughout the various ports of the territory of the Virgin Islands, of course inclusive of Jos Van Dyke, West End, Rotown, Virgin Gorda, and Anegada. Now, persons are reminded that only fully vaccinated travelers who received the required dosage of COVID-19 vaccines, whether it is for 2 doses of the AstraZeneca or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson 2 weeks before their travel date, will be able to provide antigen test results on the BVI Gateway portal. Additionally, only vaccinated persons will be retested with the rapid antigen test at the ports of entry, and once yielding a negative result, will not be required to quarantine as stated in the COVID-19 Control and Suppression Act 2021. Now, the Honorable Malone also highlighted that the management and staff of the BVI Health Services Authority continues to perform in a most commendable manner as it pertains to arriving testing. Persons traveling into the Virgin Islands are reminded to complete the BVI Gateway portal at bvigateway.bviaa.com no less than 2 days before travel date to avoid delays. A negative COVID-19 test must be taken no more than 5 days before travel date into the territory. Now, as it pertains to partially vaccinated persons who are those who have received only 1 dose of the 2 doses required for COVID-19 vaccines or traveling within the 2 weeks of receiving the 2nd dose, they too will be required to provide a negative test, a PCR test that is, result on the Gateway portal and be required to retest with the PCR test on entry with a 4-day quarantine requirement.
And viewers, we head to news with the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, where they issued its first ticket for breach of quarantine to an anonymous local who will have 21 days to pay a $10,000 fine. But this was revealed in a media release from the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force on Thursday, August 26th, which said the gentleman whose name is presently being withheld was found in violation of a mandatory order to remain at home until September 2nd, 2021. What the Royal Virgin Police Force said, and I quote, "The Tortola resident, whose name is being withheld unless he is later charged, is the first to be fined for quarantine violations since the COVID suppression measures were issued. He has 21 days to pay the ticket. Failure to do so, he will be subjected to court proceedings," end quote. But under the imposition of a curfew number 4 order 2021, a person who is subject to a mandatory quarantine order under the relevant enactments, protocols or guidelines are directed by a quarantine officer appointed under the Quarantine Act to be in quarantine shall be prohibited from leaving his or her home for the period of his or her quarantine. Around here again, this is some very concerning news. We would have heard of some rumors of persons breaching quarantine, but this for the first time we see someone being made an example of in terms of having 21 days to pay $10,000.
Kamal, I think this is a step in the right direction in that if persons are going to take the laws of the Virgin Islands seriously as it pertains to the COVID-19 suppression bill, I think we have to continue to stick to our guns and issue fines like this in order for persons to really understand the magnitude of the situation. Viewers, still ahead, a new policy for work permit exemptions no longer have to wait 15 years to qualify, and the VI is going to be hosting another COVID-19 vaccine drive-thru from August 28th to the 31st. We have all the details and so much more after a word from our sponsors.
ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT fiber network. CCT Fire, bring it home and upgrade today.
Viewers, welcome back. Well, the BVI government has made a number of adjustments to its work permit exemption policy, including the ability to now apply immediately after a marriage. But this is according to the latest cabinet post-meeting statement dated August 18th, which said the old work permit exemption policy was revoked and replaced by the revised policy, which now is in effect since Monday, August 23rd. Well, according to Cabinet, the old policy was revoked to better reflect the government's evolving strategy on immigration and labor reform in the territory and to streamline and reduce illegal trends associated with work permit exemption holders, relating to illegal work and movement throughout the territory. But under the new policy, only 3 categories of work permit exemption will be offered. But these include exemption by marriage, exemption by education, and exemption by the minister's discretion. But persons applying under marriage, according to Cabinet, can now do so immediately following a marriage to a BVI lander or belonger. But once approved, the applicant will receive an exemption for a fixed period of 6 years maximum and are notified that on the 5th year, they should submit an application for belongership by marriage to the Immigration Department. But Cabinet also notified persons applying under the marriage category that the exemption will be denied if the spouse of the applicant is outside the territory. The Cabinet also said that the exemption will be cancelled if an awardee changes employment, divorces, or becomes legally separated, or leaves the territory for a period of 90 days or more unless given permission to do so. Work permit exemptions under marriage will not be revoked if the holder has at any time obtained a protection order against their spouse under the provisions of the Domestic Violence Act 2011. But for persons applying within the category of the minister's discretion, they will not be eligible for the exemption by marriage. But in addition, under the category, persons will not be allowed to change employers nor leave the territory for a period exceeding 90 days unless given permission. Also to note, persons denied under the category will have to wait 1 year before reapplying for a new application. But no provisions were outlined for exemptions issued under the education category. But meanwhile, both the new and renewal work permit exemption application fees are $100, while the new and renewal work permit exemption and card fees are $400. Ron, this is one of the big stories coming out of the latest cabinet decisions. Where before we would have seen persons opting for a work permit exemption having to wait 15 years. Now they're saying as long as they're, especially for the category of marriages, from the next day after being married, you can apply for a work permit exemption. But also to note, as the minister responsible, Minister of Natural Resources, Labor and Immigration, Vincent Whitney, would have said, this is not somewhat of a privilege, you know. It's basically somewhat of an allowance to, to allow you to basically have some time with your spouse, but it's not a privilege similar to that of a belongership, etc. It's one that doesn't have to be granted.
Absolutely, and I do think, in all fairness, it is a privilege that will be appreciated by many. So it is a step in the right direction as we look at immigration reform. Continuing, viewers, on the local scene, the government of the Virgin Islands will host yet another Protect Each Other vaccination drive through from Saturday, August 28 to Tuesday, August 31st to provide easier access to persons getting their second dose at the festival grounds on Tortola from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. Virgin Gorda residents who have received their first dose, that's Virgin Islands residents, who have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine prior to July 25th are encouraged to use this opportunity to get their second dose before August 31st. Some 12,907 persons were fully vaccinated as of August 28, while some 4,193 persons received their first dose and are to prepare to receive their second dose. Now, the required 2-dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine produces a greater antibody response within 4 to 12 weeks of time frame, which allows one to gain a full vaccination status. Now, being fully vaccinated also provides more protection, the experts say, against COVID-19 and the variants, lessens the chances of hospitalization and death, as well as other advantages to travel and social gatherings. Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Health and Social Development, Ms. Tasha Birdie, commended those persons who are following the protocols and getting vaccinated to protect themselves. Ms. Birdie also said that the current stock of vaccines are expiring on August 31st, and persons who receive their first dose in July are encouraged to take the opportunity to get their second dose now within the 4-week time frame so they can be deemed fully vaccinated. Viewers, persons not on Tortola can continue to get their second dose at the following locations. Of course, Virgin Gorda at the Nurse Iris O'Neill Medical Clinic from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the North Sound Clinic by appointment. Residents on Anegada are asked to schedule appointments by telephone, and that is 852-7784, and on Jos Van Dyke by telephone as well at 852-7796. Vaccines can also be access by private healthcare facilities, namely the Bougainvillea Clinic, Eureka Medical Clinic, Penn Medical Center, BVI Medical Center, and BNF Medical Center. Kamal, we see where this batch of vaccines will be expiring on August 31st. Once again, of course, we would have remembered where quite a number of vaccines had to be disposed of because they were expired. And I hope that this will not be the case again this time around. Persons do have a much easier access to the vaccine in the place of the thru center. So I do hope they take advantage of it. Those, of course, who are willing, whether it's your first dose or your second dose.
Well, I believe persons should utilize those, of course, who are opting to become vaccinated.
Correct.
They should utilize this drive, as you would have seen, according to the Premier and the other members of the House of Assembly and the BVI Red Cross Association and those other institutions involved. The first drive was a major success.
Yes, it was.
With about 2,000 persons or so being vaccinated in the first week. I know you would have said initially, following the decrease in cases, that you don't think that much people would come forward.
That's correct. I did say that.
In terms of being vaccinated, but this is a good opportunity for persons, those who would have had concerns. You would have seen as of recent earlier this week, where the Pfizer vaccine would have been approved by the FDA in terms of finally being approved. A lot of persons were a little bit wary as it pertains to which vaccine should we have, or it's not approved by these authorities. We should not be taking it. But now they have somewhat of a plausible reason now to take at least the Pfizer vaccine.
Indeed.
If they choose to do so. And we would have seen the government having that initiative between the BVI and the USVI. But those persons who want to take the Pfizer, especially with the Pfizer being able to be used among the youth from 12 to 18, those persons, and that's a huge, as some persons may look at it as Pfizer may not be needed that much, but in terms of, obviously the AstraZeneca version of the vaccine can't be used amongst children 18 and younger. So that particular vaccine in itself presents a great opportunity to vaccinate a great proportion of the territory, because we have a lot of children in the territory,
including
that are
our
under
youth.
18. Yeah, so I guess persons can utilize. Obviously, the Pfizer is not being offered in the drive, but in terms of, I believe they still can come forward if the administration have measures in place to be able to use at least the initiative between the USVI and the BVI. But for those 18 years and older, this is a great opportunity for them to come forward and have that AstraZeneca version of the vaccine before the expiration date, the 31st. And as you would have seen, more than several vials were disposed of. Mm-hmm. And as we know, a vial can offer between 8 to 9 vaccines per person in terms of being applied to persons. So we really do hope that persons utilize this drive and come forward and get vaccinated if they do decide that that's the decision that they want to do.
It was also important, Kamal, to note the success of the Pfizer drive with the U.S. Virgin Islands. I think it was a step in the right direction, and we see many persons who came forward, but particularly ahead of our schools opening. I think it's pleasant, a little bit more relaxing to see those youth who were eligible, many of them going to St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands, to get the vaccine. So that definitely, I think, assisted us.
Well, I think the government did say that there was a closing off date, but I'm sure that if more persons come forward,
perhaps it could be organized,
to extend or resume that initiative. Well, viewers, up next, concerns raised by Governor and UK officials, the reason 3 bills remain not assented to. And aside from cruisers, COVID-19 vaccine for guests not a must in Caribbean hotels. Well, we hear these stories after a word from our sponsors.
Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals. Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Welcome back, viewers. Well, concerns by the governor and United Kingdom officials continue to be the main deterrent in having 3 outstanding bills asserted to, which were passed under the Andrew Foy-led administration. Well, Premier Foy made that disclosure during the 11th sitting of the House of Assembly recently while responding to questions posed by senior opposition legislator Julian Fraser. Well, 2 of the bills were passed in the House of Assembly more than a year ago, while the other was the first bill to be passed in 2021. But these bills include the Virgin Islands Cannabis Licensing Act 2020, which was passed on June 30th, 2020, the Drug Prevention of Misuse Amendment Act 2020, passed on July 2nd, 2020, and the Disaster Management Act 2021, which was passed on January 6, 2021. While giving his response, Premier Foy reveals some of the concerns raised by Governor John Rankin.
Mr. Speaker, during our tenure as a government, we have had the most legislation enacted in 2 years than any other administration with this same time frame. However, Mr. Speaker, there are 3 bills passed by the House of Assembly during our tenure that has not been assented to by the governor, and this stems back to the last governor. They are the medical marijuana, the amendment to the Drug and Prevention Act, and the Disaster Management Act. In terms of amendments, the Disaster Management Bill was not assented to for the reasons given by the governor that the amendments in the bill infringes on his constitutional responsibility. This matter is still out for the jury. The other 2 bills were not assented to by the governor as was sent to the Foreign Secretary of State for ascension. However, there are flagged some concerns where discussions are still ongoing.
The leader of government business said his administration did all that was required to ensure the 3 bills were not impeding any laws.
I must say that all the necessary legwork legally and otherwise were done before they got to the House. You know that they were thoroughly vetted by the House, and these spanned 2 attorney generals, and all the green lights were given that they were not violating any constitutional powers, nor were they violating any international regulations or anything at all. But at the end of the day, the reasons have been cited why they have not been assented to date. So I will leave that for the member.
Well, viewers, as a follow-up question, Fraser then asked the Premier whether there were any other bills that were not assented to that would have been passed in the House of Assembly prior to the Premier taking office in 2019. Premier Foy said, well, he will have to do the research to be certain it is possible.
Yeah, very well, maybe. I have to check because I vaguely remember the Prison Act that was amended, the correction facility. I remember in the opposition when that was done, and that was sent to be assented to, and I never saw it assented to. So that may very well be one of them that I remember now that you asked, and park my memory even further from the last administration. I do not recall any other, but I will do some more thorough research.
Viewers, member for the 3rd District, Julian Fraser, said he believes a thorough investigation is needed to determine the real reason for not having these 3 bills assented to. Ron, I believe, obviously we see here again where the Premier would have brought to the forefront, obviously following questions from the member for the 3rd in the House of Assembly, the whole fact of 3 bills still obviously waiting to be assented to. We would have seen the Minister of Education recently speaking on the Cannabis Licensing Act, stating on the nature and the need for such a bill to be passed in the House of Assembly to bring additional revenue to the territory. I'm not sure in terms of what the, obviously the Premier would have said what the reasons are in terms of the bills, obviously concerns raised by governor and UK officials. But then he on the other side is saying that he and his government would have done their due diligence to ensure that the legislations brought before the governor had passed all its checks and balances, and to ensure that it had no major flaws or no flaws at all when reaching the governor. So I'm not sure in terms of this tango dance between the two entities.
Yes.
I guess the longer it happens, the longer it takes for these necessary bills to pass, that would help to bring in more revenue for the territory.
Well, Kamal, you're absolutely right in regards to the tango dance, because the truth of the matter is even if all of the items have been checked, as the Premier said, everything was done to make sure that the legislations were thorough. That still does not negate the fact that the UK, through the governor, can still not assent to these bills or find additional matters that needs to be addressed with them. I think at the end of the day, if it's of importance to them and the governor, I think that's where we'll see a sense of urgency. But the tango, despite the Premier saying that all of the items were checked, can still continue based on their merit of adding to these necessary requirements.
Well, as the governor said in one of the bills, in particular the Disaster Management Act 2021, where he would have stated that the bill somewhat infringes on his constitutional right as the governor, obviously in charge of that portfolio.
Correct.
Viewers, if you may not know, that particular bill would have acted to reduce some of the powers of the governor, and obviously that in itself would have raised a major red flag for himself.
Absolutely.
Obviously having to defer some of his power to other institutions and other persons may not be something that the UK is willing to do at this present moment.
Correct. Continuing on, viewers, on a very important story, aside from cruises, COVID-19 vaccine for guests is now a must in Caribbean hotels. A number of hotels in the Caribbean have included complete vaccination against COVID-19 as a mandatory requirement to guests before entering the premises. A recent article by Forbes revealed that Elite Island Resorts, a major hotel group that boasts an all-inclusive 9 hotels within the Caribbean and Central America, has decided to implement this requirement to protect, they say, the hospitals of these smaller island nations. This rule takes effect on September 1st as its following properties: Antigua, the Galley Bay Resort and Spa, Hammock Cove, St. James Club and Villa, Pineapple Beach Club, and the Veranda Resort. In St. Lucia, the St. James Club, Morgan Bay, in the Grenadines, Palm Island, Barbados, the Club Barbados, Panama, Los Establos Boutique Inn, and travelers who are entering the hotels must present a proof of vaccination, which can either be in a written consent form from the Centers for Disease and Control vaccination card, or vaccination card from U.S. citizens, or a National Health Service vaccination report, pass, or certificate for those coming from the UK. An official vaccination receipt for Canada, or a similar official medical acceptable document which are used by various governments and recognized documents. Now, Elite Island Resort founder and CEO Robert A. Barrett said, and I quote, mandating vaccines was the wisest option in protecting the critical tourism industry on the islands where these establishments operate. He added that the only way we will be able to keep travel and tourism going strong through the fall and winter. Barrett also recognized that potential backlash, of course, from the decision to ban unvaccinated travelers, but said that the good would outweigh the bad in the long run. He said, and I quote, travel breeds tolerance, and with this decision, we don't seek to divide, because as hoteliers, we bring cultures and people together. He said, yet in today's world, we must consider so many more variables to do that, all while respecting the integrity of these beautiful islands and the people who work in them. Vaccination is also a must for Royal Caribbean cruise guests aged 12 years and older and above, according to WIC reports. This is also to be in line with the Bahamas' new coronavirus vaccine requirements. Now, guests under the age of 12 who are not currently eligible for the vaccination can still cruise as long as they continue to deliver negative test results during the period and adhere to certain health and safety protocols. Kamal, quite a big move we see across the region. I think we somewhat expected this, where agencies are really taking, they say, the health and safety of not only the hoteliers, but really looking at what outbreak can do to small island health facilities. So we'll see what effects this has on these particular resorts, and we'll continue to monitor the story.
Well, as you know, Ron, obviously the sector, the industry mostly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic would have been the tourism industry.
Yes, sir.
So I guess a lot of persons would have expected that this particular industry would have, enforced the whole vaccination protocol, because they have to protect their assets, they have to
Agreed.
start protecting their employees and also protect the guests. So in terms of such a move was anticipated, and I believe more will come in the coming months, and as we head to 2022, with these countries looking to revive tourism. Well, viewers, that's all we have today for today's news roundup. Be sure to follow us for our daily news updates at 284media.com, and like us on Facebook at 284media and 284BVI on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant. Have a beautiful weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.